Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another session of data structures and algorithms using C++. My name is Dr. Bilal Wajid, and today we're going to talk about arrays. So let's consider two cases. In the first case, you have these individual variables a, b, and c declared and initialized 5, 99, and 53. And this is the second case. What you see here on the right is a snapshot of, let's say, the memory. Okay? So let's look at the first case individually. In the first case, you've declared three variables, a, b, and c. A has been assigned 55, b 99, c 53. And what we see here is that, well, a, b, and c are placed wherever the operating system finds some space in the memory. But we also see here is that the order is not really that important, because seemingly C is placed before B. Okay? If I consider now the second case, in the second case we see, well, the values A0, A1 and A2 are stacked on top of one another, and the order is important. Remember, A0 is 5, A1 is 99, A2 is 53, and we see that they are placed in the same order, stacked on top of one another. Well, let's look at them together. If you look at them together, these here are our individual variables, a, b, and c. Well, this here is the array. This is how an array is declared. There is the data type, the array name, and the size of the array. Now notice, if the array is of size 3, the first element starts with the index 0, whereas the last element starts with index 2. So this is the size of the array, and the array is indexed from 0 to 2. So for an array of size n, it will be indexed from 0 to n minus 1. Now consider another case. Arrays are in fact very useful, and they're very useful when the user really wants to have several variables, all of the same types. So consider, for example, you want to have 26 variables. Well, if you want 26 variables, you will pretty much need the entire English alphabets. So you have integer a, b, c, d, all the way till z. Well, a much easier way is in fact to use an array. Just use the name alphabets. It'll have 26 elements in there. The 0th element, or the alphabet 0 at index 0, is a, whereas z lies at alphabet 25. Now, well, you could say, well, I can still do this, and you can say, well, you know, I just want my variables separately, and I mean, that's fine. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But let's consider another case. How about if you have 10,000 variables? Well, if you want to do them separately, you need to come up with 10,000 variable names, and you really need to remember what each of them was useful for. That's, you know, more of a nightmare. You could simply just use integer variables 10,000, right? I mean, this is much simpler. This guy here, I mean, we use square brackets to tell you the size of the array, and hence the 10,000 is here. And a word of caution, in programming, you do not put commas for numbers. So I've put 10,000 here with a comma. I've put 10,000 here in a comma because I'm talking about, this is an English sentence. And in English and in mathematics, it really helps. But when you're putting this in programs, you don't put commas. Okay, this would give you, I mean, 10,000 without the commas is the right way of doing it. If you put a comma, they'll give you an error. Now let's consider this very simple example. Let's say you want to take in 4 numbers from the user, and you just want to store them in an array and then print them just to see, well, did it get stored or not. Well, here I'm going to declare an array of integer named a, size 4, and I'm going to use a loop, a for loop, to initialize the array. Remember, this first element starts with index 0, that's why I is of the index 0, And because it ends at 3, this guy here stops at I is less than 4. It's not saying I is less than equal to 4. It's saying I is less than 4. That's so the loop ends at A3. And then you just print them. And for the printing, you just again use a loop. So before we proceed, let's try this example in our cpp.shell. So we go over here, and this is our program, right? And when I press run, right, it asks here enter 4 numbers. So I enter 9. Hypothetically, you can use any numbers you want. I press enter, and then -95632. I then press enter, and then I just write 8563 and then some very small number 2, and there you go. It prints all the numbers, right? I mean, notice here that I've put appropriate spaces. I mean, this is very useful and it helps in reading. So over here in the code, I've actually put these spaces at their appropriate space. Okay? Now, I hope this lecture helps. Once again, these lectures will help you learn data structures and learn programming, but remember, you're not going to learn programming by listening to these lectures. You'll have to, I mean, they help, but you really learn programming by doing and writing those programs. So while you watch these videos, I would strongly recommend you pause at the right slide where the code is written and you try to run these codes yourself. Okay? So up until next time, bye bye.